InfoHub recap, we look back at the past week's main issues. In our headlines, President Granger returns home following successful medical treatment in Cuba. Prime Minister Nagamutu says no confidence motion a no-go. Outgoing U.S. ambassador thanked for role in facilitating U.S. backing of Guyana in border controversy with Venezuela. And ICAO 2018 conference successfully hosted. These stories and much more in this week's InfoHub recap. We begin by telling you that over the last weekend, the government expressed its gratitude to the outgoing United States ambassador to Guyana, Perry Holloway, for being instrumental in getting his government to facilitate the process that led to the arbitral award of 1899. Here is that report.
At a farewell reception hosted at the ambassador's residence on Friday evening, Ambassador Holloway was credited for leading the U.S. calling for all parties to respect the 1899 arbitral award that demarcated Guyana and Venezuela's border. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kyle Greenidge, who is currently performing the functions of Prime Minister,
the catalyst for that is Ambassador Perry Holloway. And it's been rightly said that it sounds like a very simple and insignificant statement on behalf of the U.S. But from where I sit, it is an extremely important statement, an extremely strong statement, one that we welcome most heartily.
Minister Greenidge also expressed his gratitude to the ambassador for his patience and attentiveness to the many concerns he addressed during his tenure. In his final address, Ambassador Holloway said he took pride in the work his mission has accomplished across sectors in Guyana and reiterated the importance of Guyana's oil industry to the country's development.
Many people still do not get how big this is. Come 2020, GDP will go up by 300 to 1,000%. 300 means that in 1 year this country will produce what it takes 300 years for this country to produce at its current rate. This is gigantic. You will be the richest country in the hemisphere and potentially the richest country in the world on a per capita basis.
This morning, Ambassador Holloway paid a courtesy call to Health Minister Valda Lawrence. His mission in Guyana concludes early December. The ambassador arrived in Guyana in September 2015. For InfoHub, Anna Arakan.
5 Guyanese were awarded the Sidney Allicock Global Humanitarian Award, named after the Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. Alexis Rodney has that report.
The award was conferred upon Minister Allicock himself when it was first established last year by founder and president of iChange Nations, Dr. Clyde Rivers. The 5 recipients were honored for their efforts in various sectors. Jacqueline Allicock for her work in tourism, Nicholas Fredericks for his conservation efforts, Victor Ferreira for his work in education, Glendon Allicock for his work in culture, and St. Cuthbert's Mission Councillor Julio Pereira. Dr. Rivers said that his research led him to Minister Allicock's love for the environment.
When he opens his mouth, every word that comes out is wisdom. And every word brings us back to the original design of how this earth is supposed to run. And we honored people on the continent of Africa last year. They go, who is Vice President Allicock? I said, he's a man that'll go down in the archives of history as someone that helped preserve the planet and save this world.
In his remarks, Minister Allicock compared Mother Earth to the human body. He said that while the country can develop economically from its natural resources, this should be done in a balanced way.
And just to remind the developers, is that Mother Earth is like the human body. Let's take, for example, the diamonds are like your eyes. The gold is like your heart. The rivers are like your veins. And it went on, the bauxite, your brain, your hair, and you know that's sort of comparing it. And when you start to pluck out the diamond and the gold and pollute the rivers, it's like what you could be doing to yourself.
The iChange organization also established another award in the name of humanitarian Dr. Astel Collins. This year, the organization inaugurated the Dr. Astel Collins Global Inspiration Award. 6 persons from the United States of America received that award. The iChange Nations is a reputable internationally recognized organization which identifies individuals for outstanding humanitarian work in their respective countries and areas of service. In January of this year, 10 Guyanese, including minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, received the Sydney Alicock Award. Reporting for InfoHub, Alexis Rodney.
On Monday, November 19, the 99th sitting of the National Assembly convened. Stacey Carmichael brings us the details.
Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, who is performing the functions of head of state, informed the 99th sitting of the National Assembly that President David Granger will return to Guyana on Tuesday, November 20.
The President's doctors have assured his full recovery with treatment under their supervision. The President is expected to return tomorrow to Guyana. His doctors will, however, continue to monitor his condition over a period of time to be determined by his physicians. In an earlier statement issued in Havana, the President publicly thanked the President of the Republic of Cuba, the government of Cuba, and the medical staff of CIMIQ for the special care and attention which he has received, and for the excellent facilities in which he is being accommodated.
Also addressing the House today was Minister of Public Infrastructure David Patterson, who informed that the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority is conducting an independent investigation into the Fly Jamaica Flight OJ256 emergency landing on November 9.
Preliminary report submitted by the Air Operations Division at CGIA to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. I am informed that on landing, the Aerodrome Fire Service officers observed the aircraft proceeding west towards runway 24 intersection and onto the northeast extension area. It was reported that during the landing roll at 2:53 a.m., all aircraft landing gears were observed down. Investigations remain ongoing regarding any mechanical issues with the aircraft.
Monday, November 26 is Budget Day. Minister of Finance Winston Jordan promises salary increases for public servants and increase in old age pensions. The Natural Resource Fund Bill 2018 was also tabled and read for the first time in the National Assembly. Reporting from Parliament buildings with senior videographer T.H. Paul Bridgemohan, Stacey Carmichael for InfoHub.
The government submitted its memorial on jurisdiction to the International Court of Justice in the case brought by Venezuela. The memorial of jurisdiction confirms in a final and binding judgment the full legal validity of the 1899 arbitral award that established the boundary between Guyana and Venezuela. The memorial also illustrates that there is no foundation to Venezuela's contention. Ghana's representation before the court is being led by Foreign Minister Carl Greenidge and includes Sir Sridat Ramphal. The full statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is on our website at www.dpi.gov.gy, and we suggest that you have a look at it. At the opening of a workshop for small islands and developing states here in Georgetown, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu called for countries around the world to reaffirm their commitment to fundamental human rights, which include the respect of the sanctity of human life. Alexis joins us again.
Addressing the opening of a workshop for small islands developing states at the Pegasus Hotel this morning, Prime Minister Nagamutu said some 70 years after the Declaration of Human Rights, countries around the world continue with problems respecting basic human rights.
In several parts of the world, these rights are compromised on untenable grounds of race and ethnicity, religious beliefs, gender and sexual orientation, immigrant or refugee status, and color and even nationality.
The Prime Minister said that small islands and least developing states, including Guyana, continue to push for integrated human rights.
The Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana guarantees freedom of the individual, equality of women, the right to education, etc. Citizens are protected from discrimination on the basis of their race, ethnicity, sex, and gender.
Chief of the Human Rights Council branch, Eric Testonet, said the meeting in Guyana is the first of 3 workshops organized by the Human Rights Trust Fund.
So why did we choose the Caribbean for this first ever workshop? And the Assistant Secretary General from the Caribbean already pointed out a few elements. First of all, the first one is that 6 of the 14 countries which compose the Caribbean region have a permanent mission in Geneva, which means that all the others do not. And it's important to ensure that the voices of all countries from the Caribbean regions are heard in Geneva. Secondly, the CARICOM region has become the very first region outside Africa and the Asia and the Pacific who have reached what we call the milestone of universal participation.
The workshop comes as the United Nations celebrates 70 years of the Declaration of Human Rights. The two-day agenda includes an overview of the SIDS and LDCs and the Trust Fund's achievement in the Caribbean region. It will also hear speakers from CARICOM, New York, and Geneva. Reporting for InfoHub, Alexis Rodney.
The University of Ghana recently partnered with 12 other educational agencies from across the country to form the Higher Education Consortium on Engineering and Mining. Isaiah Braffett has that report.
This collaboration comes on the heels of Ghana's need to provide high-quality education and training, which is rapidly developing oil and gas, mining, and extractive industries. The joint venture will also explore new enrollment criteria for programs and serve as a center for harmonizing the efforts and sharing of resources among member institutions. UG's Vice-Chancellor Professor Ivelaw Griffith said in its preparation for petroleum engineering degrees, which commences in January 2019, the institution has begun hiring lecturers for the course.
It's important that as we pursue those journeys in preparing for forest, oil, and beyond, we build the partnerships with government, we build a partnership with international. We build a partnership with industry.
Professor Griffith said the university is conscious of the importance of moving beyond the first step and of the importance of having equal actions along the way to supplement those first steps in oil and gas. Other group members for the consortium include the Council for Technical and Vocational Education, Critchlow Labour College, Technical Institutes in Berbice, Essequibo, Georgetown, and Linden, and the Guyana Industrial Trade Center and the Ministry of Education. Isaiah Braffett for InfoHub.
Tuesday evening, President David Granger and First Lady Sandra Granger returned to Ghana from Cuba after spending approximately 3 weeks there. Anara Khan has that report.
The head of state, who was accompanied by his wife, had traveled to Cuba on October 30, 2018 to undergo a medical investigation. While in Cuba, President Granger was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after an intensive series of tests by specialist doctors at the Centro de Investigaciones Médico-Chirúrgicas in Havana. Given the diagnosis, the president's medical team performed a number of medical interventions, including a first round of chemotherapy treatment. The head of state responded well to the treatment and was given approval to return to Guyana. President Granger expressed profound gratitude to all those who sent their well wishes for his full and complete recovery.
Paul is back and tells us that delegates from a number of countries, including Singapore and several African nations, were all present for the official opening of the 2018 meeting of the International Civil Aviation Organization at the Arthur Chong Conference Center on Wednesday last.
The transport meeting aims to offer practical solutions to remove existing regulatory barriers to air transport liberalization. It also aims to finance the development of quality aviation infrastructure in North, Central, and South America and the Caribbean. Delivering the feature address, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu noted that the meeting comes at a time when Guyana's aviation sector is expanding.
You are meeting in Guyana at a time when our aviation industry has strengthened itself with a revised civil aviation law, which was approved by our National Assembly only on Monday last. The revision over the last 2 years has brought our law fully in line with the Chicago Convention and has enhanced safety and security provisions. Our aviation sector is moving in the right direction, and we are grateful for the commendation of ICAO, and it is growing. The figures were provided earlier in the informatics that we see. Saw before the commencement of these speeches that last year alone there were over 650,000 passengers who moved through our country.
ICAO's president pointed out that their organization's continued efforts to create air links between the African states and the diaspora will eventually result in significant social and economic benefits for both regions.
States must not only continue to improve compliance with ICAO's global standards, but also foster an operating environment under which the industry can enjoy dependable and sustainable profitability. Such efforts should include the liberalization and modernization of the regulatory framework for international air transport.
The three-day meeting will see the establishment of a collaborative mechanism between the African Union and the Caribbean. This will ensure implementation of a plan of action and achievement of agreed objectives, targets, and timelines. It will also establish a financial framework for aviation development in the African and Caribbean regions. This will be integrated into the African Union and Caribbean development plans. Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
Still in the aviation sector, the African Union extended an invitation to the Secretary General of CARICOM to discuss connecting Africa and the Caribbean via air transport. Tiffany Rojas tells us more.
Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the African Union Commission, Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, noted that Africa's population is expected to double to 2.5 billion people by 2020, and the African diaspora is estimated at more than 150 million people, with 23 million in the Caribbean alone.
Aviation provides a critical infrastructure link for the promotion of tourism between the Caribbean and the continent and for linking the people of the Caribbean to the motherland.
Ambassador LaRocque highlighted air connectivity as critical for economic growth and development, especially for small island states.
Improved, more regular, and more affordable air connections facilitate greater people-to-people contact, enable economies to attract more tourists, conduct more trade, and attract more foreign investment.
Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu noted the need to remove traditional restrictions to improve connectivity and access to international destinations.
Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean look forward with renewed confidence at expansion of links with non-traditional markets, such as with the African Union. Africa and the Caribbean are joined by the Atlantic crossing and by history and culture. It is long overdue that we should have air transport connectivity.
Creating this linkage will be examined during the International Civil Aviation Organization Air Transport meeting, which is being held here in Guyana and concludes tomorrow. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
Ghana's Green State Development Strategy is being fully commended and supported by the World Wildlife Fund. More in this report.
WWF International head Pavan Sukhdev commended the government for its dedication to ensuring a sustainable low-carbon environment through the development of the Ghana Green State Development Strategy, GSDS. However, he also urges that resources from Ghana's petroleum industry be specifically used to support green initiatives.
Using the profits, using the revenues which come from the oil finds off the coast of Guyana is a way of financing the green state, putting in the investments in the right areas, and that includes, of course, renewable energy. The President's vision, President Granger's vision, has been well spelled out already as far back as 2015, and again several times. We have heard him speak recently on the importance of developing renewable energies as the way forward in Guyana. So I'm hopeful that some of the oil finds and the benefits from that, financial benefits, will be invested into renewable energy here in Guyana.
Speaking from Georgetown on Wednesday, where he wrapped up a 3-day visit to the country, Sukhdev reiterated that oil resources must be used in a positive way. He added that areas such as agriculture and human capital need support and development.
I would expect that the investment of the resources that Guyana has inherited through the ocean oil will take place into developing cities as centers of human development and human capital. So building Georgetown, further developing it, and then developing and investing in agriculture in a way that provides higher incomes for those who are farming, as well as new business opportunities along the value chain of agriculture.
The WWF head told the media discussions with farmers in Berbice have set the tone for a new type of chemical-free farming which can propel Ghana to the top spot of food-producing nations in the region. Sukhdev also urges that proper legislation be put in place to guide programs for development of the country's green initiatives. Reporting for InfoHub, Felicia Valenzuela.
On Wednesday, day 2 of the International Civil Aviation Organization meeting, it was highlighted that air transport is vital to the development of tourism, since more than half of international tourists arrive at their destinations by air. Renetta LaFleur has more in this report.
Director General of Trinidad and Tobago's Civil Aviation Authority, Francis Regis, said everything must be done to ensure investments made to this aviation sector ensure its growth.
It is suggested that the demand by tourism for air travel will continue for the foreseeable future, accounting for 50% of international tourism traffic. This will not happen without reliable, predictable air services provided by modern aircraft.
Executive Director of Latin American and Caribbean Air Transport Association, ALTA, Louis Oliveira, told the delegates gathered that the region is at a crossroads and highlighted areas in which ALTA is willing to contribute to the growth of the sector.
In order to grow, in order to help the development of the tourists in the region, I believe that we need to work together as airlines, governments, and providers to have a better aviation industry and grow to achieve these positive results that bring the economic development, economic and social development for the region.
The 2018 ICAO conference wraps up tomorrow and will be immediately followed by the hosting of the 3rd African Diaspora meeting at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
While on the subject of tourism, Anara is back and tells us that the Ghana Tourism Authority and the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Ghana signed a memorandum of understanding which formalizes their partnership in the sector.
In a brief ceremony earlier today at the OMG restaurant, the two tourism organizations inked the agreement. GTA Director Brian Mullis remarked that while the two entities have engaged on a number of activities, the signing of the MOU is aimed at officially formalizing the partnership.
DAG and GTA have been partnering for a while, but it's never been formalized. Private-public partnerships in tourism are the norm in mature tourism destinations around the world, and we certainly want to make sure that that's the norm here in Guyana. So to do so, we have structured a memorandum of understanding based on each organization's mandates and our strengths, and define clear activities that we'll be working with one another. A structured approach of this nature will help to ensure our efforts are complementary and mutually reinforcing.
Echoing those sentiments was TAG President Mitra Ramkumar.
This is an area I think could be used across Guyana of how the authority can work with the private sector in the interest of building the industry. So the focus is not on if it's TAG or if it's the GTA. The focus is building our tourism industry. And we've said that, I'm glad that Trina, in her introduction, said that a sustainable tourism industry, because everything that we do in this industry is promoting sustainability.
The two tourism organizations also used the event to announce the launch of Guyana Restaurant Week, which forms part of the calendar of activities for Tourism Awareness Month. Patrons will have the opportunity to eat, explore, and repeat at any of the 19 restaurants participating. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
On Friday, Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu says no confidence motion is a no-go. Here's that report.
In order to move a motion against a government that has been elected by the people of this country by a majority of vote, you have to be confident that the motion could pass. It could succeed. In this case, the PPP has moved the motion knowing that it has a minority of votes in the National Assembly. It is the government that has the majority. And therefore, initially and on the surface of it, a no confidence motion cannot succeed. It is a no-go. It is a no-no.
The Prime Minister stated that a letter was sent to the parliamentary opposition stating that the no-confidence motion will be discussed after the budget presentations, debates, and estimates. He also remarked that it is the government who sets the date for the discussion of the no-confidence motion.
We are not running away from a no-confidence motion. We are prepared for a discussion of any such motion, but we believe that there are some issues that take precedent over such a motion.
The Prime Minister expressed his conviction that the motion will be defeated once it is presented in the National Assembly.
We will debate this motion. We will have this motion discussed,
and we will defeat it because it is not a viable motion.
For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
The International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO Air Transport meeting concluded on Friday, where the government signed a memorandum of understanding and an air service agreement. This will see direct flights to and from Aruba as well as Ghana. Renetta tells us more.
The MOU was signed on Thursday at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Director General for the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, retired Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Field, said the initiative began a few months ago after Aruba Airlines signaled its intention to begin flights to Guyana.
Temporary approval was given to them to conduct their operation. We did not wait until this document was signed. It was in the power of the Honorable Minister and the government to give temporary approval, which we did while this process was entered into. The legal team exchanged their reviewed material, and this has culminated in this signing today.
Acting Director General from the Aruban Civil Aviation Department, Anthony Kirchner, said he considers the signing as the beginning of discussions for further MOUs and agreements.
It was quite a work, a lot of pressure to fulfill all the gaps and to continue, especially for the Aruba Airlines, as a start. I hope we will get more airlines between Aruba and Guyana. And the connectivity, because we don't have a straight flight. We hope that we can arrange, with the help of Aruba Airlines, to get a straight flight, not through Cuba.
Meanwhile, during today's session, the governments of Guyana and Ghana signed an air services agreement setting the foundation for airlines to operate between Guyana and Ghana. Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Annette Ferguson.
With this agreement, and also the benefits to be derived is that we should be able to see a shorter travel arrangement, travel time, right, between passengers who would want to travel from the Caribbean, specifically Guyana, to Africa.
It was disclosed at the meeting that a recent assessment found that it usually takes more than 38 hours from a Caribbean country to Africa. Minister of Aviation for Ghana, Joseph Kofi Adda, explained that the agreement came at an opportune time.
We're hoping that the reality, the true meaning of what we've signed today would be one that aircraft, the airlines start coming to Georgetown, Guyana, and to other cities of the Caribbean and South America. I think this is what we're all about. We're trying to cut down the time. We're trying to bring all the socio-economic benefits to the peoples of the countries involved. And this is what we politicians can do to show that there's political will, to show that there's commitment.
The three-day 2018 ICAO conference wraps up today. Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
You have been watching InfoHub Recap, where we share the past week's top stories. Goodbye.